My name is Maria. I'm 35 years old, and I'm lying here in this stark white room waiting to die. Cancer has won. The first light of dawn spills across the hospital floor, painting long pale stripes against the sterile walls. Outside my window, a breeze stirs the branches of a tired-looking tree in the courtyard below. But here inside this room the air feels heavy, unmoving, like the final breath before silence. My name is Maria, 35 years old. A graphic designer, a mother, a stubborn fighter, or at least I used to be. Now all that's left is a body drained by chemotherapy, and a mind haunted by the thought of leaving my 7-year-old son, Leo, alone in a world that already feels too cruel. I have planned everything. The letters I'll leave behind, the instructions for Leo's care, even how I might go quietly, without anyone having to find me in pain. The plan was supposed to bring me peace, to free both Leo and me from the slow torture this disease has become. I thought I was ready. Until last night. I had decided to give up, until I heard my name whispered in a stranger's prayer. I still remember how the words floated up through the darkness, carried by a voice I'd never heard before. Low, steady, filled with a warmth I'd almost forgotten existed. Lord, please bring healing to Maria. Give her strength for this fight. Let her know she is not alone. Maria. My name. Spoken so clearly, as if this stranger had been standing beside my bed. But when I forced myself to sit up, pressing my face to the glass, I saw nothing except the empty courtyard below. No visitors, no nurses, no late-night wanderers. And yet the prayer hung in the air, wrapping around my exhaustion and despair like a thin blanket. For the first time in months, I didn't feel quite so alone. Yesterday had been the day the doctors confirmed what I had quietly suspected. The third round of chemotherapy had failed. The tumor hadn't shrunk, it had grown. There were other options, the oncologist had said, trials, palliative care, but his eyes told me the truth. The fight was ending, at least from their perspective. All night I lay awake, staring at the bottle of sleeping pills on my bedside table. My mind replayed the same questions in an endless loop. Who will hold Leo's hand when he wakes from nightmares? Who will remember his favorite bedtime story, the one about the brave little fox? Who will tell him that he is good enough, smart enough, loved enough? Tears burned in my eyes, but they brought no relief. Guilt weighed on my chest heavier than any tumor. I had promised Leo the first would fight, that I wouldn't leave him. But the truth is, I was so very tired. That voice, the prayer, arrived at the edge of that despair, like a knock on the door I had already decided to close. It shook something loose inside me. Who could have known my name? Was it one of the nurses? Someone visiting another patient? Or something more? I've always been a practical woman. I believe in deadlines, balance sheets, design software, not in miracles or divine interventions. Even when I first got sick, I had no interest in praying to a God I wasn't sure existed. Faith to me was something other people needed. I had myself. I had Leo. That was enough. At least it used to be. This morning I couldn't stop thinking about that voice. The memory felt as real as my own heartbeat. Between the pain and the exhaustion, curiosity flickered. What if that prayer wasn't an accident? I forced myself to get out of bed, shuffling closer to the window. Outside, dawn was softening the edges of the world. Nurses moved like ghosts in the hallway behind me, carrying trays and charts. But in the courtyard below, there was only silence. I pressed my palm against the cold glass. For a moment I wished I could step outside, breathe real air, feel sunlight on my skin instead of fluorescent light on white sheets. But the four in my arm and the weight in my chest reminded me where I was and why. I thought of Leo, still asleep at home with his grandmother. His small face so open, so trusting. The way his hand fits perfectly into mine. My greatest fear isn't dying. It's that he might think I chose to leave him, that he might grow up believing he wasn't enough to make me stay. That thought was almost more than I could bear. I remembered the prayer again. It had been so specific. Not just for healing, but for me to feel that I wasn't alone. It felt almost as if someone, somewhere, knew exactly what I needed most. The morning light brightened, filling the room with an unforgiving clarity. In the reflection on the window, I barely recognized myself. Sunken cheeks, thinning hair under a scarf, eyes dull with defeat. But deep inside, buried under months of pain and fear, something stirred. A question I had refused to ask until now. What if I don't have to face this alone? My chest tightened, and for a moment my vision blurred. I lowered my forehead to the window, breathing in slow, ragged breaths. And for the first time in so long, words rose inside me, hesitant, trembling, but real. Lord, if you're really there, if this was from you, please show me what to do. I'm so lost and so tired. Please help me. The prayer felt raw, unpolished, more plea than praise. But it was mine. Afterward, I stayed by the window for a long time, half hoping the stranger's voice might return. It didn't. But the emptiness didn't feel quite so heavy. For the first time in what felt like forever, I dared to imagine that this story might not be over yet. Maybe there was still something left to hope for, even if I didn't know what it was. I know I'm not the only one who has stood at the edge of giving up. If you're watching this and you've ever felt so tired, so alone, or so afraid that hope seemed impossible, I want you to know I see you. That stranger's prayer cracks something open in me. And maybe, just maybe, sharing my story can do the same for someone else. Tell me your story. Have you ever heard something, seen something, or felt something that made you pause and wonder if you weren't truly alone? Your words could become the prayer someone else is waiting to hear, just like I did. And if this part of my journey touched you, please share and let others join us. Because even here in this hospital room, I'm starting to believe hope is something we can give to each other. My name is Maria, 35 years old, single mother, graphic designer, and once upon a time, someone who believed I could shape my own destiny pixel by pixel. Before the word cancer took over my life, I lived in a small but cheerful apartment with Leo. I used to wake up early, brew a cup of strong coffee, and sit by the window sketching ideas while Leo slept, his soft breathing a rhythm that calmed me. Back then, the sun always seemed to find its way through my window. The world felt open, full of color, and I believed I was in control of my story. 2 years ago feels like a lifetime. I remember one Saturday afternoon. Leo was chasing pigeons at the park, his laughter carrying across the breeze. I sat on a bench nearby with my laptop, reviewing a client's logo design. I was proud of my work. My little freelance business had finally become steady enough to cover rent, groceries, and a few small luxuries for Leo. We had plans. A weekend trip to San Diego Zoo. An upgrade to a bigger apartment so Leo could have his own room. Even a real vacation, just the two of us on a train up the coast. And then the headache started. Just a dull ache at first. I brushed it off, took some painkillers, and kept working. But the pain returned sharper each time, leaving me dizzy and nauseous. One morning, I fainted in the kitchen while making Leo's breakfast. I still remember the sterile smell of the soft click of the doctor's pen as he tapped it against my file, and the word that turned my blood cold, tumor. The days that followed were a blur. MRI scans, blood tests, hushed conversations behind partially closed doors. When the official diagnosis came, stage 4 cancer, I couldn't breathe. My vision tunneled, and the doctor's voice became distant noise. All I could think was Leo. Who would pick him up from school? Who would teach him to ride a bike? Who would tell him how brave and kind he is? I tried to hold myself together to hide my fear behind routines. Morning cartoons, school drop-offs, late nights working on design projects to keep money coming in. One evening, as I tucked Leo into bed, he placed his tiny hand on my cheek and asked, "Mommy, are you sick?" I swallowed the lump in my throat and lied. "Just a little baby. But I'm strong. I'll be okay." Inside, I wasn't sure I believed it. But I needed him to. When the first round of chemo started, I was determined to keep working. I packed my laptop and sketchpad, thinking I designed between infusions. But the reality was nothing like I imagined. The nausea was relentless, my hair began falling out in clumps, and even standing up felt like lifting a mountain. I stared at blank screens, deadlines slipping through my fingers, while hospital bills piled up on the kitchen counter at home. At night, when Leo had finally drifted off, I sat on the bathroom floor, hugging my knees, too exhausted to cry. Friends drifted away. They sent thinking of you texts at first, then silence. Maybe they didn't know what to say. Maybe my sickness made them uncomfortable. Either way, the quiet hurt almost as much as the illness itself. I started measuring my life in test results and white blood cell counts, my hope rising and falling with every appointment. After the second chemo cycle, there was a glimmer of hope. The tumor had shrunk slightly. I dared to imagine a future again. A summer where Leo and I could sit on the grass, where I could watch him play soccer, maybe even laugh without worrying the sound would break me. But it didn't last. By the time I reached the third cycle, the side effects had multiplied. My skin grew pale and bruised easily. Food tasted like metal. My body ached in ways I didn't know were possible. The worst was the fatigue. A bone-deep exhaustion that made even brushing my teeth feel impossible. And then came the news. The tumor had grown again. The chemo had failed. The doctor mentioned palliative care. His eyes soft with pity I couldn't stand. It felt like someone had quietly closed the door to my future. One night, when Leo was staying at his grandmother's house, I stared at my reflection, sunken eyes, scarf covering my bald scalp, and whispered, "I'm sorry. I was sorry for not being strong enough. Sorry for the life I couldn't give Leo. Sorry for the promises I couldn't keep." They say when people are desperate, they turn to God. But I didn't know how. I wasn't raised with faith. Prayer was something other people did in moments of crisis. I only knew how to rely on myself, and my body had betrayed me. I remember sitting on the edge of my hospital bed, the taste of bitterness on my tongue, whispering words I barely believed. They say, "Lord, help me." But where are you when a little boy's world is about to fall apart? I can't see you. I can't feel you. I have to save myself, because no one else will. The days grew longer, each one blurring into the next. I became a ghost in my own life. Alive, but disconnected from everything that made life worth living. I stopped drawing. I stopped answering texts. My world shrank to a hospital bed, the hum of machines, and the quiet terror of what would happen to Leo without me. Yet, even in that darkness, something in me refused to stop completely. Maybe it was stubbornness, or maybe it was love. Because every time I closed my eyes, I saw Leo's face. His laughter, his tears, his tiny hands reaching for mine. And even when hope felt impossible, I whispered silently, "Lord, if you're out there, don't let him grow up thinking I didn't love him enough to stay." They call it the fight. Doctors' friends, even well-meaning strangers say it. Keep fighting. As if it's just a matter of trying harder. As if the only thing standing between me and life is sheer willpower. But the truth is, cancer doesn't care how much you love your child, how many plans you've made, or how hard you fight. I learned that the hard way. The first round of chemotherapy nearly broke me, but I clung to hope like a life raft. My hair started falling out in the shower, gathering in the drain until it looked like someone else's hair. Like the woman I used to be was slipping away, strand by strand. First, I tried to hide it. I bought scarves in bright colors, hoping Leo would see them as fun, not frightening. I smiled in the mirror, practicing jokes about being a pirate mom, so I could make him laugh instead of cry. Every morning, I'd force myself out of bed before he woke up, paint on eyebrows, and wrap my scarf just so. I wanted him to see his mother, not the patient the world saw. The side effects were relentless. Nausea that turned food into the enemy. Exhaustion so deep it made walking to the kitchen feel like climbing a mountain. And a constant metallic taste in my mouth that made even water feel wrong. But somehow, in those early days, I kept working. I designed logos between hospital visits, sketch out ideas on napkins during infusion sessions, send drafts late at night after Leo had fallen asleep. Clients didn't always know, and I didn't tell them. I wasn't Maria the cancer patient. I was Maria the designer, the mother, the woman who could still make something beautiful, even when her body was falling apart. After the first chemo cycle, there was a flicker of hope. The tumor had shrunk slightly. I let myself dream again just a little. Maybe I'd be the exception. Maybe I'd be the mother who beat the odds. Maybe, just maybe, Leo would never have to know how close he came to losing me. Then came the second round. The hospital became my second home. The same bland beige walls, the same antiseptic smell, the same waiting rooms with outdated magazines. My world shrank to numbers: white blood cell counts, platelet levels, tumor markers. I watched them rise and fall like a cruel tide, dragging my hope out to sea. Some days I'd wake up and forget for a moment. Then I'd catch sight of my reflection: pale skin, hollow eyes, scarf hiding a bald scalp, and the reality would crash over me all over again. I started to notice the distance growing between me and the people I loved. Friends stopped calling as often. Visits became rare. Their lives kept moving forward while mine was stuck in an endless loop of treatments and test results. I don't blame them. It's hard to know what to say to someone whose life has turned into a countdown. But loneliness settled over me like a heavy blanket. Even surrounded by nurses and doctors, I felt invisible. After the second round failed, the doctor's words hit me like a punch. The tumor is progressing. He tried to soften it, offering new options, but his eyes spoke the truth. The path ahead was narrowing. I nodded, holding back tears until I was alone in the bathroom. Then I let them come, silent and unstoppable. The third cycle was the hardest. My body felt like it was rotting from the inside out. Every taste, every smell turned my stomach. Some days I couldn't even get out of bed to walk Leo to the door. He'd stand beside my bed, backpack on, looking so small and brave. "It's okay, Mommy. You can rest," he'd say, trying to smile. But the guilt burned hotter than any fever. I was supposed to protect him, not make him learn how to comfort his mother before he'd even lost his baby teeth. Bills piled up on the kitchen table. Hospital statements, insurance denials, rent notices. I'd open them with shaking hands, my heart pounding, wondering how long before we'd lose even the roof over our heads. Clients drifted away too. Deadlines slipped, projects got canceled. Even my passion for design dulled under the constant hum of fear. At night, when Leo slept at his grandmother's, I'd lie awake in the hospital bed, haunted by questions with no answers. How do you tell your child you might not be there to see them grow up? How do you prepare them for a world without you? I tried writing letters for him to read when he was older, birthday letters, advice for first heartbreaks, reminders that he was loved beyond words. But each letter felt like a betrayal of the promise I'd made to him, that I'd stay. By the time the doctor finally used the words palliative care, I had nothing left to fight with. Hope had become a stranger. Strength felt like a lie I told to make other people feel better. All I could see was Leo, standing alone in the schoolyard, looking for a mother who wouldn't be there. That image hurt more than any pain cancer could bring. One night, lying in bed, I whispered a prayer I didn't really believe. "Lord, I'm so tired. I've tried, but I can't do this anymore. If you're listening, take this burden from me, one way or another." I didn't pray for healing. I didn't even pray for more time. I prayed for an ending to the pain, the fear, the guilt. In that moment, I thought surrender would feel peaceful. Instead, it felt empty, a hollow silence where hope used to live. I stared at the ceiling until my eyes burned, wishing for something, anything, to show me I wasn't as alone as I felt. But the room stayed silent. And so did God. They call it palliative care. A phrase that sounds gentle, almost comforting. But to me it felt like a funeral spoken out loud. It meant the doctors had nothing left to offer except pain relief. It meant the treatments that might save my life had failed. And it meant I had to face the truth I'd been running from. My story might end sooner than I ever imagined. I remember the day the doctor said it. His office felt colder than usual. The blinds were half drawn, and the air smelled faintly of antiseptic and stale coffee. He cleared his throat, avoiding my eyes, and said words like quality of life, comfort, and acceptance. But what I heard was prepare to die. I nodded because what else could I do? But inside it felt like something in me broke. I walked back to my hospital room on shaky legs. The hallway seemed longer than usual, every step echoing with memories. Leo's laughter, his tiny arms around my neck, his whispered, "I love you, Mommy. How do you let go of that?" That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling tiles, counting them over and over like a desperate ritual. I could hear the beeping of monitors down the hall, the murmur of nurses exchanging night shift reports. In my mind, I replayed every moment that led me here. The headaches, the diagnosis, the treatments that promised hope and delivered heartbreak instead. And then always I saw Leo. His face, his smile, his future slipping from my grasp. The hardest part wasn't the thought of dying. It was the thought of leaving him behind. I had always promised him I'd be there. At his first soccer game, at high school graduation, to comfort him after his first heartbreak. Now, I couldn't even promise I'd be there for his next birthday. I thought surrendering would feel like peace. But it didn't. It felt like guilt, shame, and fear all tangled together. When the doctor left the room, I sank into the bed and pressed my face into my pillow to muffle my sobs. My shoulders shook with silent cries until there was nothing left but emptiness. Later that night, I caught my reflection in the window. A pale, gaunt woman stared back at me, eyes hollow, scarf slipping back to reveal patches of scalp. I didn't recognize her. She wasn't the woman who took Leo to the beach, who stayed up late designing logos, who laughed at silly cartoons on Saturday mornings. She was someone defeated. Someone waiting for the end. That's when I realized. This was the last wall. The final boundary between me and total despair. And it had finally cracked. In the days that followed, I stopped pretending. I let the nurses see my tears. I let the exhaustion pull me under instead of fighting it. I started sorting through my belongings, deciding what to leave for Leo. A stuffed animal he loved as a baby, a small silver bracelet my mother had given me, and the letters I'd written on nights when the fear was too much. Each letter felt like a goodbye I wasn't ready to say. But I wrote them anyway, my handwriting shaky from fatigue. One night the pain was especially bad. I curled up on my side, clutching a photo of Leo. His toothy grin, his messy hair, the light in his eyes. I whispered, "I'm so sorry, baby." My tears blurred the photo until his face became a smudge of color. That night I decided. I reached for the bottle of sleeping pills on the bedside table, the same bottle I'd kept just in case. My hands trembled as I held it, the cap cold against my palm. I thought about how peaceful it could be. Slipping away quietly before the pain got worse, before Leo had to see me fade even more. Maybe this was the kindest thing I could do for both of us. I clutched the photo to my chest, breathing in shaky gasps. My heart beat so fast it hurt. Through my tears I whispered a prayer. Not for a miracle, not for more time, but for release. Lord, I'm sorry. I failed my son. Please take me. I can't do this anymore. I waited for an answer. A sign, a feeling, anything. But the room stayed silent. Maybe God had already turned away. Or maybe he'd never been listening at all. I lay back, still holding the pills. The weight of them in my hand felt heavier than anything I'd carried before. I closed my eyes and pictured Leo. His laughter echoing in the park, the way he used to fall asleep with his cheek against my chest, the smell of his hair after a bath. The love I felt for him was fierce, overwhelming, and heartbreaking, because I couldn't protect him from what was coming. For a moment I felt a strange calm. Maybe this was the answer. Maybe letting go was the only mercy left. But then a thought pierced through the numbness. If I go now, Leo will think I chose to leave. He'll never know how hard I tried to stay. The guilt cut deeper than the cancer ever could. I didn't take the pills that night. Instead, I lay awake until morning, staring at the first light creeping through the window. It painted pale gold patterns on the floor. Almost beautiful if I could still see beauty. In that fragile dawn, all I could do was whisper, "Lord, if you're still there, please take care of my son. He's the only good thing I've ever done." That morning I felt emptier than ever. But there was also a strange sense of finality, like I'd crossed a line inside myself. I no longer hoped for a cure. I no longer prayed for strength. All that was left was the simple plea of a mother for her child's future. A prayer that, even if I couldn't stay, someone would watch over him. I used to believe rock bottom was something you hit all at once, like falling off a cliff. But it isn't. It's slow. It's waking up every day in the same sterile hospital room, feeling less like yourself than the day before. It's realizing you've stopped hoping without even noticing when it happened. I had come to the end of my fight, and maybe even the end of wanting to fight. The bottle of pills stayed on my bedside table. Some nights I would hold it, turning it over and over in my hand. It became part of my nightly ritual, almost like a prayer twisted into something darker. I didn't want to die. I wanted the pain to end. But more than anything, I wanted to stop being the reason my little boy had to be brave. One evening, after another round of test results that offered nothing but more disappointment, I stared out the window of my hospital room. Outside, the world felt alive in a way I no longer was. A nurse crossing the courtyard, leaves rustling in the breeze, the faint glow of streetlights flickering on as dusk settled over Los Angeles. Inside, my body felt heavier than stone. Each breath felt like it took effort I could no longer afford. I thought about Leo. His last visit, when he had brought me a drawing, a bright yellow sun and two stick figures holding hands. "It's you and me, Mommy," he'd said. I'd thanked him, told him it was beautiful. But after he left, I'd folded the drawing and tucked it into my pillowcase, too afraid to look at it again. Because looking meant remembering why I couldn't let go, even when it felt impossible to stay. The doctors had stopped talking about remission. Instead, they spoke softly about comfort, as if softness could disguise the truth. Family came and went. Their voices were gentle, their smiles tight around the edges, eyes glassy with tears they tried not to let me see. They didn't say it out loud, but I could feel what they were thinking. She won't be here much longer. That night, the hospital felt emptier than usual. The hallway quiet, the hum of machines somehow louder in the silence. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my body curled around the ache inside me. It wasn't just the physical pain. It was the fear, the raw, gnawing terror of what would happen to Leo without me. At some point, I realized I was crying. My chest heaved with sobs so deep they hurt worse than the cancer. In the darkness, I whispered to no one, "I'm so sorry, Leo. Mommy tried. Mommy really tried." My eyes drifted to the bottle of pills. I thought about how peaceful it could be. No more pain, no more tests, no more watching my son's face fall every time he saw me weaker than before. The thought felt almost comforting, like an end I could choose when so much else had been stolen from my control. But then guilt surged like a fresh wave of nausea. If I did this, would Leo grow up thinking I didn't love him enough to keep trying? Would he blame himself? The idea of that crushed me more than anything cancer had done to my body. I clutched his photo, creased and worn from so many nights, in my hands. His smile, his eyes so bright and alive. God, if you're there, please watch over him. Please let him remember me as someone who loved him, not someone who left. Hours passed. Sleep wouldn't come. My mind raced in circles. Memories of playgrounds, bedtime stories, birthday candles, whispered promises I might not keep. And then an even darker thought. Maybe Leo would be better off without a mother who was only half alive. The guilt battled with love until I felt nothing but exhaustion. As dawn approached, pale light filtered through the window. It made the room look softer but no less empty. I thought, maybe today will be the day I stop pretending there's still hope. The nurses came and went, checking vitals, changing 4 bags. Their kindness felt like pity, and it made me feel smaller, weaker. A few words of comfort, but none of them could answer the question screaming in my head. What happens to Leo when I'm gone? That evening, when the hospital grew quiet again, I sat up and reached for the pills. My hand trembled so badly I could barely hold them. I held them there, feeling the weight of them, thinking one decision and the pain ends. But again my mind filled with Leo. His first day of school, his silly jokes, his small arms hugging my neck. The thought of never seeing him again, never whispering "I love you" into his hair, felt worse than dying. I lay back, still holding the photo. Tears spilled silently down my cheeks. I whispered, "Lord, if there's anything left, please give me a sign. Anything. Because I don't know how to do this anymore." I didn't really expect an answer. I'd prayed before, and the silence had been deafening. But this time, as I lay there between despair and surrender, I noticed something. The faint echo of hope. Not enough to save me, but enough to keep me breathing until morning. In those hours before dawn, I realized something painful and simple. I didn't want to die. I just didn't know how to keep living like this. As the first rays of sun lit up the window, I whispered my final prayer for the night. "Lord, if you're there, help me let go or help me hold on. I can't do either by myself anymore." I drifted into an uneasy sleep, unaware that the next day would bring something I could never have expected. A stranger's voice, calling my name in prayer, piercing the darkness I thought was unbreakable. But that would come later. For now I lay at the edge of the end, too tired to keep fighting, too in love to truly let go. Morning came, but it felt no different than the 100 mornings before it. The room still smelled faintly of antiseptic and overcooked oatmeal from the hospital breakfast cart. The light creeping through the blinds only made the white walls look more tired, more lonely. I didn't know it then, but everything was about to change, not because my cancer would miraculously disappear, but because of something much smaller, yet somehow so much greater. It started the way most days did. A nurse checking my vitals, the quiet shuffle of slippers in the hallway, the soft buzz of machines by my bed. My body still felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds, but I managed to sit up, pressing the call button for a glass of water. My voice sounded hoarse, like it belonged to someone else. After the nurse left, I turned my gaze back to the window. That window had become a strange sort of ritual for me. Every morning I'd look outside, searching for what? Maybe proof the world was still moving without me. Maybe proof it could go on for Leo, even if I couldn't. It opened onto a small courtyard below, a square of concrete and scrubby grass, bordered by a low brick wall. Beyond it I could see a side street. Passing cars, a cyclist now and then, sometimes someone walking a dog. That morning I saw nothing special at first. Just empty benches and a breeze stirring the leaves. I let out a shaky breath. What did I expect? Angels with trumpets? A sign painted across the sky? My chest tightened at the thought. I closed my eyes, whispering almost silently, "Lord, if you're really there, please, I need something. Anything." Then, in the stillness, I heard it. A voice, low, warm, and somehow steady, floating up from the courtyard. First, I thought it was my imagination. But then I heard it clearly. "Lord, I pray for Maria. Please bring her healing. Please give her strength. Remind her she is not alone." My heart slammed against my ribs. My name, Maria. I blinked, my breath caught in my throat. I shuffled closer to the window, pressing my forehead against the glass, scanning the courtyard for the voice. But there was no one there, just an empty bench and the rustling of leaves. For a moment, I wondered if the meds had finally messed with my mind. But the voice had felt so real, so deliberate. It wasn't just "God bless the sick." It was my name. Tears stung my eyes before I even realized I was crying. Because for the first time in so long, I didn't feel invisible. I whispered, barely audible. Whoever you are, thank you. For minutes afterward, I kept searching the courtyard, hoping to see a face. But the benches stayed empty. The street beyond stayed ordinary. And yet, inside something shifted. It wasn't huge. It wasn't sudden. But it was there. Like someone had cracked open a window in a room I thought was sealed forever. All day I replayed that moment. Why me? How did they know my name? Could it have been coincidence? Part of me tried to explain it away. Maybe a volunteer with a list of patient names. Maybe I'd misheard. But another part of me, small and scared but stubborn, wanted to believe it was more. When the nurse came in with my meds, she asked if I was okay. I hesitated. Then I surprised myself by saying, I think someone prayed for me. She smiled gently. That's wonderful, she said, like she was used to hearing things like that. But for me, it felt like the first truly new thing to happen in months. Later that afternoon, exhaustion hit me like a wave, and I drifted into a shallow sleep. In my dream, I was standing outside that same courtyard, and there was a man on the bench, head bowed, praying. When I called out to him, he lifted his face, but it stayed blurred, like my mind refused to fill in the details. I woke up with my heart racing, the image burned into me. That night, for the first time in months, my prayer wasn't just words muttered out of habit or desperation. I spoke slowly, each word feeling raw and uncertain. Lord, I don't know if that was you, but if it was, thank you. Please help me keep going. Just for today. And in that moment, for the first time in what felt like forever, my prayer didn't echo back empty. It didn't erase the pain. It didn't make the cancer vanish. But it felt heard. The next morning, I sat up without needing to force myself. I still felt sick, still weak. But there was something small inside me. Something I hadn't felt in so long I almost didn't recognize it. Curiosity. I needed to know. Who had prayed for me? Why? I kept watch over the courtyard, hoping the voice would return. Hours passed. Nurses came and went. Meals were delivered and collected. But the bench stayed empty. And yet the silence felt different now. Not as heavy. Not as hopeless. A nurse's aide who came to check my temperature found me staring out the window. Looking for someone? She asked lightly. I hesitated, then nodded. I think someone prayed for me yesterday. Out loud. They used my name. She didn't laugh or look skeptical. She just said, sounds like you were meant to hear it. Maybe that was it. Maybe the point wasn't finding the person, but hearing the words. I couldn't explain it. But it felt like someone somewhere knew my name and thought I was still worth praying for. That night, when I lay back in bed, I whispered, Lord, I don't know what to do with this. But please, help me see what you want me to see. For the first time, my words didn't feel like they were bouncing off the ceiling. They felt like they landed somewhere. Somewhere I couldn't see but could almost sense. I still didn't know what tomorrow would bring. I still had cancer. I was still terrified. But that voice, whoever it was, planted something small in me. A seed of faith. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to keep me breathing one more day. The day after I heard the prayer, the hospital felt different. Not brighter, not lighter, but different. Like a room after someone quietly opened a window. The pain was still there. The fear still coiled in my chest. But there was something else now. A question that wouldn't leave me alone. Who had prayed for me? And why did it matter so much that they had? That morning, after another restless night, I sat staring out the window, hoping to see whoever had spoken my name. But the courtyard stayed empty, just breeze rustling the trees, the low hum of traffic beyond the walls. Still, I waited because for the first time in months I wanted something enough to fight my own exhaustion. Around mid-morning, Nurse Anna came in to check my vitals. Anna wasn't my regular nurse. She usually floated between floors. She was older, maybe late 50s, with kind eyes framed by laugh lines and silver streaks in her dark hair. There was something calm about her presence, like she carried her own quiet faith into every room she entered. She glanced at my monitor, then at the untouched breakfast tray on my bedside table. "Maria," she said gently, "you have to try to eat a little. Even just the toast." I shrugged, staring at the window instead of her. "Not hungry," I whispered. Anna didn't scold me. She just pulled up a chair and sat beside the bed. We stayed silent for a while, the room filled only with the soft beeps of machines. Finally, I said it before I could stop myself. "Anna, do you believe in miracles?" She looked at me, her gaze soft but steady. "Yes," she said simply. "I do." The words caught me off guard. Not a sermon, not a complicated explanation, just certainty spoken like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Why?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "After everything you see here every day, why still believe?" Anna smiled, a little sad, a little hopeful. "Because I've seen things that medicine can't explain," she said. "Not often, but enough to know there's more than what we see." I swallowed hard, my throat tight. "Yesterday someone prayed for me. They said my name. I don't even know who they were." Anna's eyes brightened. "How did that make you feel?" I blinked, tears prickling. Like, for a moment I wasn't alone. Anna reached out, her hand warm and light on mine. "That's grace, Maria," she said softly. "Sometimes it comes quietly, through a stranger, a prayer, even a breeze through an open window. But it comes." We sat there in silence for a moment. Then I surprised myself by asking, "Do you really think God cares about someone like me? Someone who stopped believing a long time ago?" Anna squeezed my hand gently. "I think God never stops caring," she said. "Even when we stop looking. Even when we're too angry or too tired to pray." Her words settled deep into the quietest part of me, stirring something I hadn't let myself feel in so long. The possibility that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't beyond reach. After she left, I stayed by the window, letting the morning sun warm my face. The pain didn't go away. The fatigue still pressed on my bones. But I noticed small things. The way the sunlight caught the dust in the air, turning it into tiny flecks of gold. The soft laughter of a nurse down the hall. A sparrow landing briefly on the windowsill before fluttering off. Tiny things, but they felt like reminders you're still here. You're still part of this world. Later, Leo came to visit. His face lit up when he saw me sitting up instead of lying flat. "Mommy, you look better today," he chirped, and my heart twisted with love and guilt all at once. I didn't have the heart to tell him nothing had changed medically, but something had changed in me. Instead of fearing the next scan or the next round of chemo, I let myself see his smile, really see it. When he left, I sat quietly and whispered almost shyly, "Thank you, God, for today. Just today." That night, Anna came back at the end of her shift. She brought a small wooden cross, simple and worn. "I've had this for years," she said, "but I think you might need it more than I do right now." My fingers curled around the wood. It felt warm from her hand, real and solid. "I don't know how to pray," I confessed. Anna smiled softly. "Prayer isn't about saying the right words," she said. "It's about being honest. Even if all you say is 'help me.'" When she left, I sat in the dark, turning the cross over in my fingers. I whispered the only words I could find. "Lord, I'm still scared, but thank you for Anna. Thank you for whoever prayed for me. Please help me see what you see." My prayer was clumsy, uncertain, but it felt real, and somehow that felt enough. The window, once a boundary between me and the world, had become a lens, showing me not just what was out there, but what might still be inside me. It's strange how a hospital room can feel like both a prison and a sanctuary. Every day feels the same. The same white walls, the same beeping monitors, the same smell of antiseptic and lukewarm coffee. Yet that morning felt different, not because the pain was gone, but because my heart felt just a little less heavy. I woke before sunrise, the sky outside still a soft, bruised gray. For a few minutes, I let myself watch the world waking up. A nurse walking to the bus stop, The first hint of orange creeping over the rooftops, the sparrows fighting over crumbs in the courtyard. And for the first time in so long, I didn't look away. When the door creaked open mid-morning, I knew even before I looked who it was. Leo's voice rang out, small but so alive. "Mommy!" His little sneakers squeaked on the floor as he rushed to the bed. His face glowed like he was bringing the sun itself with him. I forced myself to sit up straighter, even though it made my ribs ache. His hair smelled like shampoo and playground dust. I closed my eyes, breathing him in, trying to remember every detail. The warmth of his cheek, the weight of his hand on mine. "Mommy, guess what?" he burst out. "Tell me," I said, smiling despite the tightness in my chest. He pulled something from his backpack, a drawing on wrinkled construction paper. 2 stick figures holding hands under a huge yellow sun. "It's us," he explained. "And the sun is smiling because you're going to get better." My heart clenched so painfully it almost felt physical. "It's beautiful," I whispered, my voice breaking. He didn't notice my tears. He just kept talking. About his new friend at school, the funny shape of the lunch his grandma had packed, a game he'd played in the yard. I let his words wash over me like warm rain, each sentence tugging me further from the dark place I'd been. At one point he paused, his big brown eyes looking straight into mine. "Mommy, are you still sick?" I swallowed, forcing the lump in my throat back down. "Yes, baby," I said softly. "Mommy's still sick." His little face fell for just a second, but then he lifted his chin, stubborn in a way that reminded me so painfully of myself. "That's okay," he declared. "You can still get better tomorrow." Something in me cracked open. Not hope in a miracle cure, but something deeper. The realization that his faith in me didn't depend on the outcome. He loved me, sick or healthy. To him, I was still Mommy. And that love felt holy in a way no sermon had ever felt. Before he left, I pulled him close, my hand trembling slightly as I brushed his hair back. "Leo," I whispered, "Mommy can't promise everything will be okay. But I promise, I'll keep trying. Every day." He nodded solemnly, then grinned his crooked grin. "Okay, Mommy. I'll keep trying too." After he was gone, the room felt quieter but not empty. I looked at his drawing again, the silly smiling sun and our stick figure hands, and I realized it wasn't just art. It was his prayer, painted in crayon. That night I prayed 2 awkward, halting words but real. "Lord, thank you for Leo. Thank you for the love that keeps me breathing. Please help me to be the mother he deserves, even if I don't have forever." The pain still came, sharp as ever. The nausea, the weakness, the fear, they didn't disappear. But each time I thought of letting go, I remembered his face. His faith in me, as unshakable as the sun in his drawing. In the early hours of the next morning when sleep wouldn't come, I traced my finger over the crayon lines. And a thought came to me, gentle but insistent. Maybe it's not about promising to win. Maybe it's about promising not to stop fighting. When dawn finally broke, I felt something I hadn't felt in so long it almost hurt to name it. Purpose. Not the kind built on test results or survival rates, but the kind built on love that refuses to quit. I still had no idea what tomorrow would bring. But I knew one thing for sure. I would fight, not for the miracle of being cured, but for the miracle of another day with him. That morning I whispered my prayer softly. "Lord, thank you for Leo. Thank you for his stubborn, fearless love. Please give me enough strength for today, and help me show him what love looks like, even in pain." As the sun climbed higher, I watched the courtyard again. Still empty, still ordinary, yet somehow transformed because now it wasn't just a place I looked out at. It was the place where hope had whispered my name. And in Leo's smile in his drawing, I saw that same hope reflected back at me. The next morning, I woke before dawn, the hospital halls still hushed and dim. For a moment I lay there, listening to the slow rhythm of my heartbeat, the machine softly humming beside me. Then my eyes drifted, as they always did now, to the window. And that single thought returned, as stubborn as my own heartbeat. I have to know who prayed for me. After Leo's visit, that need only grew stronger. His drawing had stayed taped to the wall by my bed. A son still smiling, still believing. And I thought, if a 7-year-old can believe so fiercely, can't I at least try to find where that prayer came from? That morning, when Nurse Anna came in, I asked her outright, "Anna, do you know who might have prayed outside my window? Someone who knew my name." She looked thoughtful, then shook her head gently. "We sometimes have volunteers who pray outside, or family members of other patients. But calling your name, that's unusual." Part of me sank at her answer. But Anna added, "Maybe it wasn't about the person, Maria. Maybe it was about the prayer itself, and that you were meant to hear it." I nodded, though inside the question still burned. Later that day, I gathered what little strength I had and asked to be wheeled closer to the window. It was such a small request, but my heart pounded as the nurse pushed my chair to the corner of the room where I could see the courtyard fully. For the first time, I noticed details I'd missed before. A narrow path lined with uneven paving stones. 2 benches, one under a scraggly tree, one near the low brick wall. A small plaque on the wall I'd never read before, its letters worn by rain. I couldn't read it from where I sat, but somehow it comforted me just knowing it was there. Evidence that someone once upon a time had cared enough to mark this place. I watched the courtyard for hours. Staff on smoke breaks, a young man scrolling on his phone, an older woman sitting quietly, eyes closed, lips moving in silent prayer. But no one who looked like they were searching the sky for someone named Maria. At first, disappointment tugged at me, sharp and bitter. But then, slowly, something softer replaced it. Curiosity turning into acceptance. Maybe the gift wasn't meant to lead me to the person. Maybe it was meant to lead me to something else. That evening, as the sun lowered and the courtyard turned golden, I whispered almost shyly, "Lord, I don't need to see them anymore. I just want to thank them, whoever they are." For days I kept watching. Every morning, I'd ask the nurse to move my chair by the window. Every morning, I hoped to see that stranger again. I never did. But the act of waiting itself became a kind of prayer. One morning, the woman I'd seen before returned. The one who sat silently, hands folded, head bowed. She didn't look up at my window. She simply prayed, her posture gentle and open. I found myself praying too. Not words of desperation this time, but simple thanks. I noticed other things too. The slow dance of light and shadow across the courtyard walls. A small patch of weeds pushing through the cracks in the pavement. So green, so alive, even in broken stone. It dawned on me slowly. My search had started with a question, who? But the real answer had nothing to do with identity. It was about the truth hidden in that moment. I am seen. I am not alone. One afternoon, Anna came in while I sat watching the empty bench. She set down a cup of tea beside me and asked softly, "Any sign of your prayer, friend?" "No," I said. "But maybe that's okay." She smiled. Sometimes faith isn't about finding answers. Sometimes it's just about staying open enough to see what's already there. Later, alone in the room, I whispered, "Lord, maybe I'll never know who it was. But thank you for that moment. Thank you for letting me feel loved, even by someone I'll never meet." I began to understand something I hadn't before. That prayer isn't always about getting what we ask for. Sometimes it's about changing the way we see the world. The courtyard hadn't changed. The cancer hadn't disappeared. But I had changed. One morning, I traced my finger along Leo's drawing, still taped by my bed. And I thought about that stranger, the prayer, the stubborn weeds, the warm sun, the kindness of Anna. None of them had fixed my illness. But together they had done something almost as miraculous. They had shifted my heart from despair to hope. That night, I prayed in words that felt softer, less desperate. "Lord, I may never know who prayed for me, but I know you heard. Thank you for reminding me that love can come from unexpected places. Please help me keep my heart open to see it. As I drifted off to sleep, I realized I'd started out wanting to find the stranger, but what I'd really found was a reason to keep looking for grace, even in the most ordinary places. And maybe that was the true gift all along. They didn't come easily at first. The words felt strange on my tongue, like speaking a language I barely remembered learning. But after so many mornings by the window, watching the light and the courtyard, something inside me softened enough to try. It started one night when the pain kept me awake. The hum of machines filled the silence, each beat marking a second I couldn't sleep. I closed my eyes and whispered into the darkness, "Lord, I don't really know how to do this, but I'm here." That was it. No grand words, no poetic lines. Just that. I'm here. And somehow that felt like enough. The next day when Anna came by, I told her, embarrassed, "I tried to pray last night. It was awkward." Anna smiled gently, her eyes soft. "Prayer isn't about perfection, Maria. It's about honesty. God listens to the heart, not the grammar." That stayed with me. So I kept trying. Small prayers, whispered or even thought silently in my head. When the nurse changed my four and the pain bit deep, I whispered, "Help me through this moment." When Leo's drawing caught my eye, bright against the dull walls, I murmured, "Thank you for this little piece of hope." Sometimes the words came out sounding almost like conversation. "Lord, I'm scared. I don't know if I can keep doing this. Please don't leave me." Or, "I saw the sparrow today. Thank you." It made me smile. The more I prayed, the less it felt like I was talking to empty space. I still didn't hear answers. The pain didn't vanish. But in those quiet moments, I felt less like I was carrying it all alone. One evening, the pain was particularly cruel, twisting through my bones until I bit my lip to keep from crying out. I whispered through clenched teeth, "Lord, if you won't take this pain away, please at least sit with me in it." A warmth spread through my chest, not enough to erase the pain, but enough to remind me I wasn't entirely abandoned. That small comfort felt almost holy. Sometimes my prayers were clumsy confessions. "I'm still angry, God. Angry that this is happening. Angry for Leo. Angry at you, maybe. But I don't want to stay angry forever. Please help me." Other times they were short, stubborn sparks of hope. "Let me wake up tomorrow. Just one more day." I began to see prayer not as asking for miracles, but as sharing my life, even its ugliest parts. It wasn't about fixing everything. It was about refusing to hide from God, even in my fear and doubt. And something unexpected happened. The more I prayed, the more I noticed small moments of grace. A nurse who stayed an extra minute to hold my hand. A stranger's laughter floating up from the courtyard. Leo's crayon drawing catching the late afternoon sun and glowing like stained glass. They didn't change my diagnosis, but they changed me. One night I prayed, "Lord, I still want to live. I'm still terrified. But thank you for today. Thank you for the nurses, the light through the window, and for Leo's smile. Even if tomorrow is worse, thank you for today." And as I lay there breathing slowly, it hit me. Maybe that was the prayer I'd needed all along, not heal me completely, but help me see the beauty that's still here. Some prayers felt unfinished, like sentences without a period. Sometimes all I managed was, "I don't know what to say," and somehow that felt heard too. Anna once told me, "Maria, faith isn't always certainty. Sometimes it's just refusing to let go, even when your grip feels weak." So I held on with clumsy, imperfect words. And each time it felt a little less like I was speaking to the ceiling, and a little more like I was being quietly answered. Not in miracles, but in moments, a breath that came a little easier, a tear that fell then dried, a whisper of hope that didn't die out. One morning Leo visited again. He asked, serious as only a 7-year-old can be, "Mommy, do you still pray?" I nodded. "Yes, baby. I do. Even if it doesn't fix it? He asked. I thought for a moment, then smiled. Yes, because it helps me remember I'm not alone. He considered this, then said simply, That's good, Mommy. That night I prayed a new prayer. Lord, teach me how to keep praying, even when it feels foolish. Teach me how to show Leo that hope is stronger than fear. And somehow, saying it out loud made the fear shrink, even if only by an inch. My prayers stayed clumsy. My words stumbled, but they were mine. Honest. Raw. And as broken as they were, they felt real. In the quietest hour of the night, staring at the moonlit courtyard, I whispered, Lord, I don't know what tomorrow holds. But thank you for hearing even this messy, broken prayer. Please stay with me. And for the first time, I truly believed he would. The morning light came through the window, soft and almost kind. For the first time in weeks, I woke not thinking how much longer, but instead, what can I do today? It wasn't hope in the way most people think of it, not the certainty of a cure, but something quieter, the courage to keep asking questions instead of surrendering to silence. That morning, Anna came in to check my vitals. I hesitated, then asked, Anna, do you think it's foolish to keep trying? To look for something new, even now? She paused, her kind eyes steady. Maria, foolish hope keeps many people alive longer than medicine alone ever could. Those words stayed with me. Later, when my oncologist, Dr. Patel, made his rounds, I surprised both of us by speaking before he could. Doctor, last time you mentioned a clinical trial. One I turned down. He blinked, taken aback by the strength in my voice. Yes, he said carefully. A phase 2 immunotherapy trial. It's experimental and there are risks. I nodded. I remember. But can we revisit it? Dr. Patel sat down beside my bed. His tone was cautious, but I saw a flicker of something in his eyes. Was it respect? Relief? Maria, I'm glad you're asking. It won't be easy. There may be side effects, and it isn't guaranteed to help. I know, I said, but I'd like to try. For months, I'd let despair speak for me. Now it felt like I had found my voice again, not a loud voice, but a steady one. It wasn't that I stopped being afraid. I was terrified, but my fear wasn't the only thing I felt anymore. Later, Anna brought me the trial consent forms. The pages looked endless, full of small print and medical terms that felt like a foreign language. My hand trembled as I signed, but I thought of Leo, his drawing, his faith, and felt my grip tighten. For him, I whispered under my breath. And for me, my heart added quietly. That night, my prayer was different, not just a plea for rescue but a request for guidance. Lord, I don't know if this will work, but thank you for giving me the strength to ask. Please give the doctors wisdom and help me face whatever comes. Days passed in a blur of tests, scans, and briefings about potential side effects. Nausea, fever, fatigue, the same list I'd heard before, but somehow I listened differently this time. This wasn't punishment. This was a fight. The first day of treatment arrived. A nurse hooked me up to the floor, explaining each step, her voice calm but gentle. I watched the medication drip slowly into my veins and tried to imagine it not as poison, but as hope in liquid form. I closed my eyes and prayed quietly. Lord, let this be useful. Even if it doesn't heal me, let it buy me more time to love Leo, to show him strength, to laugh with him again. The hours dragged on, interrupted by vitals checks and blood draws. My body felt heavy, my stomach queasy. But each time fear rose, I whispered another prayer, not to be spared from pain, but for courage to keep going. Anna stopped by at the end of the day. She squeezed my hand. You did well today, Maria. Thank you, I whispered, exhausted but strangely proud. It was a small victory, but it was mine. That night, lying in bed, I thought about the difference between fighting because you're afraid to die and fighting because you still have something worth living for. Before, my fear had made every treatment feel like torture without purpose. Now, even in the same pain, I felt anchored by something deeper. I didn't know what the next scan would show, but I knew this. I had chosen to keep walking even in the dark. And that choice felt like a kind of light all its own. A few days later, Leo came to visit. He climbed gently onto the edge of my bed, his eyes searching my face. "Mommy, are you trying something new?" he asked. I nodded. "Yes, baby. It might help." "Does it hurt?" "A little," I admitted. "But it's worth it if it gives us more time together." Leo's eyes lit up. He grinned and hugged me tightly. "I'm glad you're trying, Mommy." In his small voice, I heard something powerful. A child's belief that trying matters, even if you don't know the ending. That night, I prayed with Leo beside me. "Lord, thank you for this chance to keep fighting. Please help me be brave for Leo. And if it isn't your will for me to be healed, let me still show him what hope looks like." My body felt weaker after each infusion, but my spirit felt steadier. Not because I had certainty, but because I had purpose. Faith, I realized, wasn't a promise that the road would be smooth. It was the choice to keep walking even when every step hurt. As I watched the courtyard at sunset, I whispered, "Lord, I don't know how this ends, but thank you for today. Thank you for giving me the courage to ask, to try, to hope again." And I meant every word. They didn't announce themselves with trumpets or applause. No doctor burst into my room shouting, "You're healed." Instead, they came softly like dawn light creeping across a dark room. The quiet victories that most people might overlook, but to me they felt like miracles. The first came a few days into the new treatment. I woke expecting the familiar wave of nausea that usually slammed into me the moment I opened my eyes. But that morning it was lighter. Still there, but manageable. Enough that I could sit up, breathe, and even take a sip of warm tea without gagging. I whispered, almost surprised at myself, "Thank you, Lord. Thank you for this small mercy." And in that moment it truly felt like mercy. Later that morning I managed to eat half a banana. A month ago that would have seemed trivial. But now each bite felt like a defiance of the disease trying to strip me of strength. "See, Leo," I told him proudly when he visited. "Mommy finished half a banana." He beamed as if I'd run a marathon. Another quiet victory came on a rainy afternoon. For the first time in weeks, I stood by the window without needing help. My legs trembled, my heart pounded, but I stayed upright, hand pressed to the glass, feeling the coolness against my skin. Outside, raindrops gathered on the pane, racing each other down in crooked paths. I caught myself smiling genuinely at the simple beauty of rain. That night, my prayer felt different. Not desperate, not demanding. Just thankful. "Lord, thank you for rain. Thank you for legs that still hold me, even if only for a minute. Help me notice these gifts, even when fear shouts louder." The next week, Dr. Patel visited with a printout in his hand. "Some of your markers have improved," he said cautiously. "It's not dramatic, but it's encouraging." It wasn't a declaration of remission, but it was something. A flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, the treatment was helping. "Thank you," I whispered to him, but mostly to God. That night I lay awake, hand on my chest, feeling each heartbeat. For so long every beat had felt like a countdown. But now each beat felt like a promise. "You're still here. Lord, thank you for this heart that keeps fighting, even when I feel like giving up." One morning, Anna brought me outside in a wheelchair to the courtyard I'd watched for so long through glass. The air smelled of wet earth and cut grass, sharp, alive. For a few minutes I closed my eyes and let the sun warm my face. I'd forgotten how good real sunlight felt, how it soaked into tired bones like blessing. "It's beautiful," I whispered. "Yes," Anna said, smiling. "And so are you, Maria, even now." It's strange how quickly I'd gotten used to measuring worth by medical charts, blood counts, and scan results. But sitting in that courtyard, feeling the breeze on my face, I remembered, being alive is enough. Even if it's broken, even if it's borrowed time. That night, Leo sat beside me, drawing in his sketchbook. What are you making? I asked. A picture of you, he said. He turned it around. A wobbly figure standing by a big window, sun shining through. My hair was drawn short, but my smile was huge. Is that really how you see Mommy? I teased. Yes, he said very seriously. Because you're smiling now, Mommy. You didn't used to. His words settled deep in my heart, gentler than any medicine. I prayed later, quietly, tears in my eyes. Lord, thank you for letting Leo see me as more than my sickness. Help me keep smiling for him. And for myself. The victories stayed small. Some days the pain roared back, fierce and merciless. But even on those days I searched for something, anything to whisper gratitude for. A nurse's kindness. A funny video Leo sent me. The sky turning pink at sunset. Faith didn't erase the suffering, but it gave me new eyes. Eyes that could see grace woven into the mundane, even on the hardest days. One particularly rough night, pain clawed through me until I curled into myself, crying. When it eased, I prayed, not asking for strength this time, but thanking God that the wave had passed. Lord, thank you that the pain doesn't last forever. Even when it feels endless, it ends. Thank you for that mercy. Slowly I realized, hope wasn't waiting for a giant miracle to arrive. Hope was learning to treasure these quiet victories. A better day, a small meal, a moment of laughter. Before, my prayers had sounded like bargaining. Heal me and I'll believe. Now they felt more like conversation. I believe. Thank you for today. One night, as I watched Leo sleeping in the chair beside my bed, I whispered, Lord, thank you for another day with him. I don't know how many I have left, but thank you for this one. Please help me see tomorrow's gifts too, whatever they are. The quiet victories didn't make the cancer disappear, but they built something stronger than certainty. They built resilience day by day. And with each small thank you, I felt my heart grow softer, braver, and strangely freer. For months, the window had been my cage. A silent witness to my weakness, a glass boundary that kept the world alive and me, waiting to die. I used to stare out at the courtyard, counting passing cars and wondering if I'd ever walk there again. But one morning something shifted. The sun rose softly over the hospital wing, painting pale gold across the floor. I watched dust motes dance in the light, graceful as snowflakes. They made me smile, something that used to feel impossible. For the first time, I didn't see the window as a wall. I saw it as a lens. Through it, I noticed life unfolding outside, quiet and beautiful. A nurse wheeling an elderly patient who laughed at something unseen. A sparrow hopping between benches, pausing to peck at crumbs. A mother in scrubs picking up her child after a night shift, hugging him so tight he squealed. These weren't my moments, but they felt borrowed, like grace spilling over the window ledge, reminding me the world kept moving, still beautiful, even if I couldn't touch it directly. One afternoon, a storm rolled in. Dark clouds swallowed the sky, and rain hammered against the glass. I used to hate days like that, they matched my fear too perfectly. But that day, I stayed at the window, hand resting on the cool pane, and watched as the rain washed the courtyard clean. Somehow the storm felt honest, almost comforting. Even the sky had to cry sometimes. When the clouds finally broke, a single shaft of light pierced through, catching on a puddle below, making it shimmer like molten gold. Lord, I whispered, thank you for letting me see this. Anna came in and found me still standing there. Tears on my cheeks but a gentle smile on my lips. What did you see? She asked softly. Life, I answered. I thought I'd lost my place in it. But maybe I'm still part of it, just watching from a different seat. That window had been my judge, silently reminding me how small my world had become. Now it became my cathedral, a place where I could sit, watch, pray, and feel connected to a universe that still pulsed with laughter, love, and motion. One morning, Leo visited, climbing into the chair beside me. What do you see, Mommy? He asked, peering through the glass. Today? I see a woman in a blue scarf feeding birds. I told him. And you? He thought hard, eyes squinting, then pointed. I see the birds. And a little rainbow in that puddle. I hadn't noticed it. But once he pointed, there it was, a faint arc born from sunlight meeting leftover rain. You have good eyes, sweetheart, I whispered, hugging him. After he left, I sat by the window and thought about that rainbow. Small, imperfect, easy to miss, just like grace. Some days pain kept me in bed. I couldn't make it to the window, but even then I'd picture what might be happening outside. Leaves turning color, people hurrying with coffee cups, a stray dog napping in the sun. In my mind, the window stayed open and the world stayed alive. Before, I saw the window as a reminder of what I'd lost. Freedom, health, certainty. Now it reminded me of what I still had: vision, breath, wonder. One evening, Anna found me tracing my finger along the glass. What are you praying for? She asked. Nothing new, I answered. Just thanking him that I can still see beauty, even if it's through glass. She nodded. That's a powerful prayer, Maria. At night, the courtyard turned into a mirror. My reflection, pale and tired, stared back at me. But behind it, the city lights glowed. 1,000 windows, each hiding another story of love, loss, hope. It comforted me, knowing I wasn't the only one praying through glass. Once I would have begged God to take down the wall to let me run free. Now my prayer had changed. Lord, if this window is where you've placed me, help me see what you want me to see. Teach me to be grateful for the view I have. One morning as the sun rose, Leo drew me a picture. A window with light pouring through it, falling on a figure standing inside. That's you, Mommy, he explained. But see? The light still reaches you. His words settled in my chest like a quiet truth. Even when walls keep me inside, light can still find me. The window taught me to slow down, to watch instead of always doing, to see beauty not just in milestones, remission, cure, but in small things: sparrows, sunlight, raindrops, and the way Leo's laughter sounded through the phone. One evening I pressed my forehead to the cool glass and whispered, Lord, thank you for this window. Thank you that it shows me the world doesn't end with my suffering. Help me remember that even if I can't walk outside, I'm still part of what you've made. Through that rectangle of glass, I discovered that faith isn't always movement. Sometimes faith is stillness, watching, thanking, and believing that beauty matters, even when your body is failing. There's a quiet that settles over your heart when you finally stop fighting the wrong battle. I used to think peace meant being healed, going home, picking up Leo from school like any other mom. But real peace, I learned, isn't found in what might happen tomorrow. It's found in what you choose today. One morning after another round of treatment, I sat by the window watching people hurry through the courtyard, coffee cups in hand, lives bursting with plans. I still wanted that, to run errands, make plans, be busy. But the ache didn't hurt like before. Instead, there was acceptance, gentle and surprising. Lord, I prayed softly, I don't know what tomorrow brings, and that's okay. Thank you for today. The change didn't come overnight. Some days, fear still coiled tight in my chest, whispering, what if the next scan is worse? What if Leo has to say goodbye? But those fears no longer ruled me. They came and they left like weather over the window pane. Anna noticed the difference before I did. You seem lighter, Maria, she said, checking my vitals. Not healed, I laughed. Just lighter. That's something doctors can't prescribe, she replied, smiling. It felt almost strange to be at peace while still being so sick. My body was frail, hair thin, skin pale. Yet my heart felt steadier than it had in years. One afternoon, Leo visited, drawing beside me in his sketchbook. What are you making, baby? A heart, he said. Because you're brave. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Bravery doesn't mean not being scared, sweetheart, I whispered. It means doing things even though you're scared. Then you're the bravest, he answered without even looking up. That night, I prayed not to be healed, but to stay brave. Lord, even if the answer is still no, help me keep my heart open. Let Leo remember my love more than my sickness. At some point, I realized my prayers had changed. They were less about fixing my body and more about freeing my spirit. Dr. Patel brought me new scan results. It's stable, he said. Not better, not worse. Months ago, I would have broken down at not better. But now I smiled. Stable is good, I told him, and I meant it. I shared this with Anna. I think I finally understand what Paul meant, I said, recalling a verse she once quoted. The peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, peace that doesn't make sense on paper, but feels real in your chest. Slowly, I felt a tug to share my story. One morning, Anna wheeled me to the patient lounge. Other faces sat there. Faces pale from chemo, eyes carrying the same exhaustion and silent fear. I spoke, voice trembling at first. I used to think faith was about being rescued. Now I think it's about learning to rest, even when rescue doesn't come the way we hoped. Heads nodded. A woman in her 50s wiped tears from her eyes. I didn't give them false hope. I didn't promise healing, but I shared what was true for me. That peace is possible even in pain, that you can still laugh, pray, and love, even in a hospital gown. That night, Leo curled up beside me, and I told him stories about when he was a baby. We both giggled, and for those moments, cancer had no place between us. Mommy, do you think you'll get better? He whispered, eyes half closed. I don't know, I answered softly. But I know I'll love you every single day I'm given. When he fell asleep, I prayed, Lord, thank you for laughter in a hospital room. Thank you for letting love outlast fear. One morning, a nurse asked, Aren't you afraid of what's next? I was honest. Yes, but I'm more afraid of missing what's here right now. That surprised her and me too. Peace, I discovered, wasn't a reward for being good. It was a gift, given freely, accepted freely. Not the absence of storms, but calm within them. The window helped teach me this. Even when skies outside turned gray, I knew the sun still existed behind the clouds. Faith is like that, unseen but present. Some evenings I'd close my eyes and picture Leo grown up, kind, brave, and laughing. I might not be there to see it, but I prayed my love would shape him anyway. Lord, let my love be a seed that grows, even if I'm gone before it blooms. I kept sharing my story in the lounge. People thanked me, some cried, some just sat quietly holding my hand. Each time I felt lighter. Pain didn't disappear, but it mattered less. Before, I thought the bravest thing was fighting cancer. Now I realize the bravest thing is choosing joy, even when the fight might not be won. One evening, Leo looked at the cross necklace Anna had given me. Does it help you, Mommy? Yes, I said. It reminds me I'm not alone. Then can I have one too? He asked shyly. We found a small wooden cross in the hospital gift shop. He wore it proudly, over his superhero shirt. Watching him, my heart ached, but not from fear, from gratitude. That night, my prayer was simple. Lord, I finally understand. Peace isn't something I wait for after healing. It's something I choose now. Thank you. If this story touched your heart, know that your story could touch someone else's too. We warmly invite you to share your own journey of faith, hope, or prayer in the comments below. Or if you'd like, send your story by email to the address in the description. Together, let's build a place where faith is shared, hope is renewed, and no one feels alone in their struggle. Your story matters. Your prayer can inspire. And your voice could be the light someone else is waiting for.